Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Welcome, guys, and thank you so much for joining us on a winter chilly afternoon. How is everyone doing? Can I just test the energy in the house? Can we have a round of applause for Tahir? Thank you so much. Thank you, Tahir, for joining us in the India Digital Summit. And I'm delighted that, it's just a great pleasure to be sitting across you because, one, she mentioned, the career trajectory that you've had in Bollywood has been nothing but phenomenal. And I will go back to letting my audiences get a recap of Tahir's debut with Mardani. 2014. It's been 10 years last year that the film completed, and I think when you get launched in an industry as competitive as Bollywood with such a charming anti-hero villain role, which people love to hate, I think you feel that you've arrived. So let's take you back to that year, to 10 years back. And when you look back, Tahir, I just want to know, how does it feel that, is it a lot of gratitude one has, or one feels that, okay, it's still, there's so much more to explore in this industry, and you continue to break stereotypes with the kind of roles that you're taking and redefining masculinity. So talk to me about that.
Sure. Thank you for having me here, Monica, and India Digital Summit. We were just talking before we got on stage, and it's fantastic to see an event of this nature that brings people from all aspects of media together. Coming to your question, 10 years makes me sound like a bit of a veteran. I assure you I'm not. I still feel I'm just about getting started. The film we're talking about is Mardani, and I think what makes a character loved, because it's very unusual to hear the word a charming anti-hero or a charming villain, is how it's scripted and how it's mounted. And what made the debut in Mardani stand out was the fact that he could have been the boy next door, that he would dress and walk and talk like he could be like your boyfriend or your brother or a friend, but it was the things that he did in his mind that made him slightly difficult to put in a box, and which is what I loved about it, because it wasn't black and it wasn't white, and which is why critics at the time came up with the term anti-hero, which I loved because it's gray. And you were talking about the evolution of masculinity, and because we're talking about breaking stereotypes, I think it's in that gray space that you break stereotypes, and it's what the audience today responds to and relates to the most. Because what you're saying when you're in the gray is that you're not the slick, perfect hero who says the best lines and who's got the hero wala, CT wali entry all the time. You can be flawed, and it's those flaws that make you the most relatable to today's audience.
Absolutely. I mean, now that we're discussing about the topic called breaking stereotypes and redefining masculinity, so definitely the character with which you started your journey was not your stereotypical hero who's beating around 100 men with knives or guns that we see today, or dancing around the trees. He had his gray shades. He had a lot of qualities that people will relate to. So Tahir, as an artist, when it comes to your approach while choosing a film or a project, I would like to touch base upon the approach that you follow. Because when we read a character on the paper, it sounds very different from when it actually comes to portraying that on screen in front of the camera. So what is your approach when you are portraying a character, and how do you distance yourself as an artist and not judge their eccentricities?
Not judging your character is very important, especially when you debut, running a child trafficking ring. And that's one thing that you learn in acting school. I have studied acting, which is something that I would really advocate to anyone who wants to enter the creatives and come to Mumbai, because you can come there for diverse reasons of chasing the money or the fame, but I think backing and an education is never something that goes waste. And that ultimately feeds into making the choices, because your question was about what makes you choose. And what always draws me to a part is what is the conflict in a character. In the most recent series, अभी Netflix पर आई है, उसका नाम है ये काली काली आंखें, और उसको on paper अगर देखा जाए तो it's a romantic story, like it's a love triangle, but there are so many shades because the character is in conflict. And I think that's what makes real life interesting, because we're talking about the evolution of masculinity and modern leads. I think stories always follow the times that we live in. And today, if you look at the time that we're in, it's a time that moves fast. Like, attention is the currency. It's not money anymore. And authenticity and transparency are something that's rare because we live in a time of alternate facts, of everything needing to be verified. And so the way I would translate authenticity and transparency in a character would be vulnerability. Like, how vulnerable can your character be? Even in a film like Mardani, where you're an all-out someone in the gray space, there's a scene where that villain breaks down crying when one of his members in his team get taken down. And I think the beauty in something like a Ye Kali Kali Aankhein, which is on Netflix at the moment, is that this guy wants to be James Bond. For those of you who haven't seen it, he wants to crack it. He wants to hire a hitman or fake crying, but he has to go to YouTube to figure out how to do it. And it's that relatability that makes the audience feel like, shit, this could be me, you know? And that's what makes choices, is relatability, vulnerability, and is there conflict in the character?
I'm sure everybody in the house has witnessed Ye Kali Kali Aankhein. Give a round of applause if we've loved him in that. And season 2, it went to another level, and it's already renewed. And a season 3 is going to come soon. So Tahir, talk to me about how important it is for an actor. I will not use the word validation, but when a season gets so much love that a platform, a leading giant, is okay to renew it for not 1 but 2 seasons consecutively, the kind of confidence that one gets, and also the kind of scope it has given you to explore as a male lead on an OTT series. What kind of, how do you view the whole perspective?
It was a big responsibility when the show came to me 3 or 4 years ago, because for those of you who watched the show, it's rare to get a series where the audience will go through the story with the voice in the character's head. There are actually few dialogues that Vikrant says. It's all a voiceover in his head that you're following. And when it gets greenlit for a sequel, and now for season 3, it's just humbling, and I just have a lot of gratitude, because it's not every day that you wake up to having a hit franchise on OTT. But it's also a double-edged sword, because every actor, every artist wants to be in a situation where you have an audience and critics and the industry that's looking forward to a series, but now there's also that pressure of, I hope we don't let them down. So in a sense, there's a confidence when you walk on set to say that, hey, we're doing something great, and we know that we're doing something different, because that's why people want to see more of it. But at the back of your mind, there's also that, I hope we get this right the next time around as well.
Of late, audiences and critics have been witnessing a lot of ambiguous characters and narratives. I would probably take the liberty of naming films like An Animal, like the recent one, Fateh, where I think violence is at its peak. And audiences are loving it in that, you know, all that being shown on the big screen. Do you think there has been a paradigm shift in the storytelling in modern Indian cinema, and how the masculinity and how the male leads are being showcased vis-a-vis how it was a decade ago or maybe 2 decades ago?
There are 2 aspects to this. Bollywood buffs in the house, if I can take you back a little bit to the 90s, we used to live in an era in the 90s where it was about the alpha male, the hero. I'm talking about, you know, when Amitabh Bachchan, when we had Sunny Deol, Anil Kapoor, like these were like your alphas. Then we had a slight period of vulnerability, because that's when the charming boy next door, Shah Rukh Khan, and they came on board. And then early 2000s, which is when I was in college, you had more slice of life. You know, that's when Dil Chahta Hai came out. And then Saif Ali Khan and even Amir Khan started doing different things. And then you had a new wave in Debakar Banerjee and Anurag Kashyap, where you saw a flawed hero in Abhay Deol. And after this trajectory, I think now we've gone from realism to hyper-realism. And I would say the start of that would have been around a Dabang, where you saw a larger-than-life character. Having said that, I feel like stories are always, they follow a trend. So it would be difficult to say that now we've evolved and now the next thing is going to be, I think, and the thing about trends are that they're cyclical, they fade. At the moment in this year, things have been in vogue about the violent hero because of the way our stories have been told. As far as my character in Ye Kali Kali Aankhein is concerned, what I find interesting is it's not violence for the sake of violence. He's in a do-or-die circumstance. His back is against the wall, and what makes him relatable is that you know that he's fighting for, in the story, the love of his life to protect his family. And the show is constantly morally questioning the audience. It's like, objectively speaking, this is wrong, but seen from the character's point of view, what do you think? And I think that is where the evolution of our storytelling is going to be, is that you grant the audience with intelligence.
Ye Kali Kali Aankhein, I must say that most of the audiences in the house are fans, and having watched the series, I can say that after all your big screen outings, whether it was Mardani, whether it was 83, Loop Lapeta, Chichore, one of my favorites, you've been making sure that I do not get boxed. So stereotypes se to bahut dur. You've been breaking it ever since you debuted in the film industry. But do you agree that OTT has given that whole scope to you to diversify in a manner that probably big screen would not have? Because the kind of roles and the kind of characters and the depth with which they are shown in every sequel, in every series, in every season, you have more dimensions and layers added to your character, which probably after a three-hour long film, one forgets and tend to move on to the next one. But here you are engrossed and invested in a character. So talk to me about that whole shift from the big screen to becoming this loved hero on OTT now.
I think that's a very well-phrased question, because it's a fantastic time to be an actor, that you can have one foot in the door of both. I think nothing can take away from the cinema experience of like being in a community theater with your friends, eating popcorn and watching it. Having said that, the way the industry is, the trajectory at the moment is that event films seem to be the sort of flavor of the day. And those are not films that get made too often. What OTT does is it gives amazing opportunities not only to actors but also to everyone working behind the scenes, whether they're your DOPs or your costume stylists or set designers, because behind the scenes, it's the same crew that's working on both. And like you rightly pointed out, I think there is a certain benefit in being part of a story that's told episodically, that's told in a long format, because I have never shot for a sequel before, which I did for the first time in season 2, where you're revisiting a character. And a lot of people have asked me what that's like, and that's almost like you meet an old friend. कोई पुराना college का दोस्त हो जिससे 2-3 साल से बात नहीं करी और फिर आप उससे मिले. So you pick up where you left off. So it definitely has given opportunities to tell different kinds of stories, to hold on to characters and explore them more deeply, and also to reach out to a particular kind of audience. I did a show for Hotstar called Sultan of Delhi, which again, that if this is going to be a Hotstar audience, then we can make a particular kind of show. If it's going to be a Netflix audience, so you can then curate the kind of story you're telling for a particular niche, and that has opened up a lot of possibilities as well.
Since we are discussing the topic called breaking stereotypes, redefining male lead roles, as everyone knows that Tahir hails from Delhi, or Delhi mein tu janta nahi mera baap kaun hai culture is something that I don't need to introduce. That is also a kind of toxic masculinity that we've seen on screen a lot. But having said that, I would like to understand, when you, in your growing up years in Delhi, how has Bollywood influenced your mindset towards what you're going to do next? And now when you portray roles, are you taken back to those days when you used to watch cinema and think that, okay, this is what I will do, this is what I will not do once I become an actor?
I think anyone who's grown up in India is massively influenced by Bollywood. And when you're a teenager and when you're a kid, what you start off doing is dressing like your favorite hero. And especially when you know at the back of your mind you want to be an actor, then you're practicing dialogues and acceptance speeches in the bathroom mirror at your age of 14. So I've definitely done my fair share of that. And then as you grow older and you get into college, you realize that that is a representation. But I have grown up on watching Amitabh Bachchan and Amir Khan and Shah Rukh Khan. And so those are definitely, so for me, when I was in Chichore, there was such a massive Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar throwback, and the fact that Ye Kali Kali Aankhein has a title from Bazigar, to me is a massive throwback on what it does. These are not choices that one makes consciously, but it's always great when life does a 360 and it gives you a throwback to what you've grown up on. And I feel like also it's so evolving, right? Like, you also don't want to do the kind of cinema that you grew up watching, but you're heavily influenced by it. And I hope that the work I do in the future is influenced by it and moves it forward.
Those who do not know, Tahir is a big Shah Rukh Khan fan and admirer. I've read upon a couple of interviews that he's given in the past, and I can vouch for it that the influence that Shah Rukh has had on your life, you can probably go on, and we can have another session where he talks about that. But talk to me in brief about what is it about his kind of cinema, especially when he was the entire hero in Dar and Bazigar, before he transitioned into becoming a romantic hero with a DT Elgin and today being called the king of romance. You went on record saying that how his success in Bollywood serves as an inspiration and courage to you, because it's very easy, and let me touch on the insider-outsider debate here. You are a complete outsider in Bollywood, but the way, the consistency that you've maintained in the last 10, 11 years is not easy in a competitive industry that you are a part of. So why don't we just talk about a little bit of Shah Rukh here and let the audiences know how much he has been a part of your journey?
Sure. I mean, who isn't from my generation? But for me in particular, because I'm from Delhi, I went to Delhi University. Shah Rukh Khan was in Hansraj, I was in Hindu. All his friends were around the Panchsheel Hauskas area. I had a lot of friends in that area. And so there was so much where you felt that it's just here, you know. And when someone who you know has grown up in the same streets has broken a glass ceiling, it gives you courage. And I think he's done that not only for me, but for an entire generation. And Shah Rukh Khan is not only a superstar, he's an emotion. And I think a lot of people relate to that. Because you mentioned being an outsider, I feel very, very grateful that I've had an incredible opportunity to work with some fabulous directors. And when you're starting off, when you come from Delhi and when you're not from Bombay and you're trying to break it in Bollywood, the analogy that I often like to use is it's like jumping out of an aircraft, not knowing whether your parachute is going to open or not. And the difference between someone who's from within the industry is that they know they have a parachute and a backup parachute. We jump out without knowing whether it's going to open. Then you somehow land, and you need to then go again and jump. And so there's the risk element. And what one misses in the beginning is not knowing that, okay, beta, aap apni pehli film kar rahe ho, so now your second and your third film are also lined up. The hardest thing for someone in any industry, in fact, whether you're starting off as a lawyer, as an entrepreneur, is to know that, okay, you made your first sale, how do you get your next customer? And I related a lot to being a creative entrepreneur, because it's about how do you get your next project, how do you prove yourself again? But I think the value in making your own course and learning your own lessons is that you tend to imbibe them, you tend to retain them longer, and if you do it right, maybe in 10 years you'll be on a stage and then someone will be asking you what your journey's been like.
No, I mean, of course, the journey has been so phenomenal, and slow and steady wins the race seems to be your mantra. ऐसा नहीं है कि दिन साल की 10 picture चल रही हैं, but the quality has been of paramount importance in your career. I can say that without any doubt.
But if producers are watching this and they want to give me saal ke 10 picture, they're also more than.
So Tahir is there up for grabs. All the producers listening to this, please take note. But Tahir, with the success that you've had with your projects, I'm sure there has been your share of challenges also. The struggle continues. Even the superstars today continue to have their own share of struggle. So why don't you tell us about maybe that couple of biggest challenges that you have faced, and how did you manage to overcome that in a way that did not discourage you or dissuade you from pursuing the career further?
I think at the very start, you have to make friends with rejection, because being an actor means you have a lot of meetings where people might give you hope. You have a lot of auditions where you make it almost to the final shortlist, and then you're told that you don't get it or someone else gets it instead of you. And the real challenge was in not taking that as negative, but as taking that as feedback to say that, okay, I need to work on something and then move on stronger.
But ऐसा हुआ है कभी?
बहुत बार हुआ है. I mean, I didn't walk into Mardani's audition on the first. It took me 3 years of a lot of rejections. But I really look back at that time as a big learning phase. And people like to call it struggling phase, but I saw it as an aspiring phase.
Learning phase.
Yeah, and I think that difference between that terminology from aspiring to struggling makes a world of a difference on like where you're focusing. I don't mean to sound like an Instagram motivational speaker, but it is that's all it is. At the end of the day, it's a mindset game, and it's a challenge. You're absolutely right. Like, you could be the biggest producer or the biggest superstar. It's the level at which your race is and your struggle is. And I think that's the dicey thing, but that's also the beautiful thing about this line of work, is that you're constantly evolving. And the minute you feel that now I've made it, is when the downfall starts to happen. And that is the challenge, is not to let the ego take over.
Ye Kali Kali Aankhein ka sequel ka you spoke about, but when you look back and see Mardani having also become a successful franchise, kaisa feel hota hai? Matlab 2 had already been a great success, another newcomer was launched, and now Mardani 3 has been announced. How does it feel that, okay, I was there when the seed started, when it all started, and I was a part of that journey?
It's amazing. It's almost like you gave someone maths tuitions and now they have become, a all India topper. So, and I say this because you're right. It's a coincidence that abhi season 3 green light hua hai, Ye Kali Kali Aankhein ka aur Mardani 3. Although my character died in the first part, but there is a sense of ownership. And it's amazing when people say, oh, you were a part of Mardani 1. And I was like, it wasn't Mardani 1 when I was part, it was just Mardani. And it's just a sign that it was, again, something that was clutter breaking. And I think that's the difference between something that will always stand out, is when you try something different and do it differently.
Tahir, when Mardani came, tab 10 saal pehle, that this whole social media game was not as big as it is today. Today we are eating, walking, sleeping, talking, discussing, dreaming social media. Of course, that has also played an important role in the kind of stories that are being told on screen, the parts that are being written, the characters that are being cast, the followers, the whole social media game. Aap kitna active ho, kitna nahi ho, how much you're able to sell yourself on social media. Where do you draw a line as an artist? In your scheme of things, where does social media stand? Kitna important hai, nahi hai? Is there that constant pressure of being up there on Instagram every day? And I mean, of course, using it to interact with your fans is one different thing, but when it becomes that pressure point, does it really pain?
I don't know whether if we're at the India Digital Summit, if we need to only say positive things about the digital world, but I have mixed feelings, and I'm just going to be honest over here. I think it's an important marketing tool, and that's what it is, where you can reach out and interact with fans that you haven't ever met, and you can get instant feedback about why didn't your character do this, and why didn't the story move in that direction. Having said that, I think the gray aspect, and the aspect which I would call something that people need to watch out for, is algorithms, because that's what determines everything on social media. And it's great if you're using it as a marketing tool, if you're using it to figure out if your Instagram reel reached the right audience, or if your targeted ad reached the right number of people and the right age group. But when you start reverse engineering art to fit the algorithm, then you're no longer making art, you're making a product. And that goes with storytelling, it goes with film, it goes with long format, it goes with casting, because the maximum that someone with followers can get you is probably your trailer will be watched a little more. But just because I'm watching someone's workout videos doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to want to watch them in a film. And I think gradually the industry is understanding this. I feel like what makes great cinema or great OTT shows amazing is that they were clutter breaking and they were never done before. And I'm talking about even internationally, House of Cards, Breaking Bad. These were things that never, if you see the pitch of, hey, there's a chemistry teacher who has cancer and now he becomes a drug dealer. It sounds bizarre, or a president who's going to have so much gray backstory in a House of Cards. But if you have an algorithm that's basing its formula for success on things that have already been successful, you'll never be able to break that clutter. And that's the line that I draw, is the inability to take chances is problematic.
What a great answer. And picking from here, you spoke about the whole digital world and algorithms. The whole invent of technology in the modern cinema has also kind of redefined the storytelling process. Not just the scripts, how they are written. I'm not saying still ChatGPT has overtaken the scriptwriter's job, but the whole advancement in the kind of shootings, the VFX, the intervention of AI, it is definitely changing the way storytelling is done. Is there any kind of threat that we see, or is it going to play a boon in the stories that we're going to see in the coming days?
I think it's only going to add, and it would be very backward thinking of me to say that it's something that we can avoid, because we can't. And I remember similar discussions happening when cell phones started having cameras, about people saying, is photography now going to be? I think it just will open up and make it more accessible. VFX that used to take months and months and used to cost millions will now be done in a matter of weeks. So yes, you will have to evolve. You will have to learn those tools. I don't think there is an immediate danger for AI being able to write original scripts. Like, they will give you, it's like a language. Like, they can take alphabets and rearrange them to form a sentence, but they can't create new alphabets, if that analogy makes sense. So I think where script writers and DOPs or even actors is like, they will give you something unique, which is what the power that human beings will always have. Having said that, it is unavoidable that we'll have to adapt to the new technology.
And taking you back to the shooting sets, sports has been done with 83 and even a bit with Loop Lapeta. Romance is still happening. Violence has happened. I don't think audiences have really seen you in an out-and-out rom-com or a absolute mad romantic hero. So do we want to see Tahir in a romantic role, totally, should I say dancing around the trees? Maybe not that, but yeah, if, is there that hunger that, okay, I want to tap on that genre as well?
100%. I feel as an actor, you're very greedy. You want to do all kinds of stuff. And I've grown up on Bollywood romance. So I'd want to. Something like a Jab We Met would be fantastic. Or even if you're doing like a slice of life, I think the way romance was presented in a Dil Chahta Hai was really well done. So, of course, I feel the only way to know whether you can do something is to jump into it and try and do that.
Tahir, if I can take the liberty of asking you, are you an actor, an artist who would be absolutely okay going to a producer, director, and asking for work and showing conviction if you know that, okay, this is the kind of script being worked upon, and asking for a role and just being upfront that, okay, I think I can do justice to it? Or is there that thing that it's been 10 years, let them spot me if they want me in the project?
No, the former. Like, I would be very open, and I've done this, where I've met a director socially at either an award function or at a film gathering, and I've said that I really liked your last project, and it would be amazing to work together. Because very often, if someone is writing something and you've never done that kind of part before, they might not be able to see you, but just showing your interest, whether it's a producer or a director, is something that I'm always open to.
I think that is the true definition of breaking stereotypes, because that's my favorite question to ask any actor that I meet, because, with success, that arrogance also that comes sometimes that why should one go and ask for work? I think it's brilliant when an actor says that I can walk up to a director and producer and tell them that I'm the best fit. So I think a huge round of applause for Tahir for answering that with such honesty. And Tahir, we are sitting in the Gen Z generation. Do you identify yourself as, मतलब कहाँ वो जो break millennial, Gen Z?
No, I mean, definitely millennial. Not Gen Z, because I cannot understand half the things that they're saying these days. But yes, millennial for sure.
क्या मतलब Gen Z में क्या समझ नहीं आता, ऐसा कुछ anecdote?
No. I mean, I understand it now because I've hung out with enough of them, but they say stuff like no cap or drop the T or have you got bread. These are like, if anyone understood what... So
no cap, chalo thoda sa, I think common ho gaya, but yeah, what is drop the T?
Drop the T is the gossip. What's the T? Spill the tea.
Spill the tea, oh yes.
And bread is, I think it's money. Like, that guy looks like he has bread.
How many Gen Z in the house here?
There's one person behind
1, 2, 3, okay.
Also drip. Drip is another one.
Okay. okay. Let's not make
She's
us
skirting
sound
it,
too
yeah.
old. Okay, ठीक है, हम Gen Z से सीख लेंगे. But Bollywood right now, definitely, with so many debuts happening. I mean, as of today, we have 2 more debuts coming. There is Raveena's daughter. There is Ajay Devgan's nephew making their film debut. So Gen Z to Bollywood में बहुत है, and we have Khan's daughter, etc. Who's your favorite Gen Z actor that you've come across and probably want to collaborate with in the coming days?
Collaborate with, I don't know whether they fit in what category, but I feel like both Tripti and Vamika are doing great stuff. Yeah.
Anything elaborate on that? Any particular project that you've loved of them that you watched?
There are so many. I've met both of them socially, but I just know that different stuff that I've seen, like when you see a scene and you know that that's someone who can act and you want to collaborate with them, it's just a feeling that you get.
How lovely. And before I conclude, taking you back to the topic that we're discussing, redefining male leads on the big screen. Is there any actor in Bollywood, in the Hindi film industry, or even pan-India, let's not restrict to Hindi film industry, who you would see has been the trailblazer when it comes to redefining male heroic roles on screen, who's tried all the genres but still has never been stereotypes or boxed in कि ये तो वही अच्छा करता है जो आप follow कर रहे हो. Because today I'm sure nobody will say कि Tahir is a great romantic hero या बहुत अच्छा villain है या sports role अच्छे करता है. People have seen you do a variety, and I think that is how you have to be a buffet. You know, you should not be a specialized cuisine. So which actor would you say today in Bollywood fits that bucket well?
I think two people in Bollywood who were my idols when I first moved to Bombay. One is, of course, Shah Rukh Khan. And I'm talking about the early phase of his career because he so easily blended the boy next door, the anti-hero, and then moving to rom-coms, like you mentioned. And then there was Irfan Khan. I feel like one of my biggest regrets is that I never managed to work with him. And just because he started in a film called Hasil, and then from there to Maqbool, and it was just phenomenal work. And I think
the comedy that they eventually did was
yes,
amazing. I think we all miss Irfan,
Yeah, and that's what I strive to do. And I think the best compliment, and as an actor, when you walk out, people take pictures with you. They sometimes want your autograph. But the best compliment that I've received from someone is to say, hey, when I see your face on a poster or when I'm scrolling through Netflix, I want to click on it because I know that it's going to be interesting. And I think that's what you can achieve, is that people trust that when you're in a story, there's going to be something different about it.
Tahir, let's end the session by asking you what's been the biggest compliment that has come your way, not from a fan, or maybe one from a fan and one from somebody from the fraternity, that has really stayed with you, and sometimes when you're really down, let's say you're having a bad day, but when you think of that one compliment, it really cheers you up and instills you with more inspiration.
The compliment I just mentioned, because I met someone at an airport about a year ago, and that's what they mentioned. But within the industry, I remember when Mardani first came out, Amir Khan reached out and he really liked the part. And in your debut, to be able to make a mark with an actor of that caliber and that's like superstardom, it just meant the world. And he said, you're good. Make sure you don't take too many quick decisions. Pick and choose what you're doing. And I just always remember that advice/compliment that he gave me.
Clearly, you have followed that religiously, and I'm sure on that note, I can conclude the session by saying that, Tahir, the kind of variety that you have offered to your audiences has been spectacular and phenomenal, and keep that hunger on. Stay hungry, because I think only when an actor is hungry, they can do well on screen and audiences can have the satisfaction of watching a great show. And now I will let the house be open for some audience's questions. Can we have some being addressed?
Hi, good afternoon, Tahir. As you said, you got a compliment कि आप हो तो वो तो ज़रूर अच्छा होगा ही होगा. We are from fintech industry, हमारा entertainment industry से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. We love you. We are here to watch you. Missing our session, but yes, just wanted to know. I have also loved creating content over social media and always wanted to do good. I have been a part of few Manipuri movies. I am from Manipur and I have worked with Bijo and others, which you might know, you are friends. And I just wanted to know if a piece of advice or something you would like to give to your 14 years old self. 14 years old Tahir, if you're watching him right now sitting next to you, what would you like to say to him? Or a piece of advice ki sab ho jayega? Or what do you feel that us time you dreamt of this success and now you're here and you want more, to usko what piece of advice you want to give him to relax down, calm down?
Yeah, that's a great MBA kind of question that you've asked me. I didn't get your name. Anmol. Something I would tell my 14-year-old self is actually something that I learned much later while in Bombay is that it's very important to identify and know your why, as in why are you doing something, and have a very clear idea of why you're doing it. And I think that is true whether you're acting, whether you're making social media content, or you're running a fintech organization. And the second thing, which also I learned very recently, is what sets apart people who succeed, whether it's in business or in sport or when you're acting, is compassion. Is because very often we're hard on ourselves. And if you can be compassionate and say that, okay, 7 things went wrong today, but 3 things went right. So let me try and focus on those 3 things. Those are the 2 things I tell.
Thank you.